At this location in 1970 was a Circle K, and on Saturday evening around 8:30 on March 7th, two men walked in with guns and announced it was a holdup. Within a few minutes, two shots rang out, and both men ran out with about $400 from the cash register. They escaped on foot. Police arrived and found 17-year-old stalker boy Kenneth Meiner dead on the floor behind the counter. He had been beaten and shot. At the time of the robbery, other than Kenny, there were two clerks and a family of 5 in the store. Investigators determined that Kenny was either hiding behind the counter and they saw him, or he was attempting to run out the back or run to a phone when he was seen by the suspects, where he was beaten and then shot. Police interviewed everyone in the store at the time of the robbery and others in the area. A reward fund was created to help lead to the capture of the suspects. According to the store clerk that night, the suspects came in and announced that it was a holdup and for everybody to get down on the ground. Everybody did except for Kenneth Meiner. He was the stalker, and he slipped on a box and fell on his knees. He got up and he began to run. One of the suspects took a shot at Kenny and missed. They then ran over to him and pistol whipped him and beat him with the butt of the rifle. He cried out, "Please don't." As they were both beating him, one with a pistol and the other with the butt of a rifle, the one who was holding the rifle turned it around and shot Kenny in the chest, killing him. About 10 days later, the suspects were identified, their photos appearing in the newspaper, and the very next day, on Wednesday, March 18th, the two suspects turned themselves in to police. They were identified as 19-year-old Melvin Lee Taylor and 17-year-old Ray Chapman. Chapman denied being at the scene of the crime. He said that he was at home with a toothache. They were both held on 1 count of murder, 2 counts of armed robbery, and 2 counts of assault with a deadly weapon. In December of that year, the trial started. Taylor asked the judge that he be remanded to the state hospital. He told the judge, "I'm not competent to accept these charges. I don't know what's going on." The judge denied it. A social worker named Joyce Lee Neal, age 28, testified that she was in the Chapman home at the time of the robbery, and Ray Chapman was there. She also said that she now lives with the Chapman family, but didn't at the time. Peggy Worthen, age 22, testified that Ray was home on the evening of the slaying. She called the home at 9:20, and Ray answered. And by the way, Ray is her brother. The prosecution would produce 2 key witnesses who saw the faces of the suspects and identified them in court. One of them was the store clerk. Another one knew one of the suspects for at least 5 years, and he saw him at the store just before the robbery took place. Chapman had the rifle, and Taylor had the pistol. Other witnesses who were there that could not make a positive ID testified that they did hear Meiner being beaten and pleading for his life. Before sentencing, both men spoke for an hour to the full courtroom about their innocence and the racial prejudice they experienced during the trial. Both men were found guilty and sentenced to death. In 1973, the Arizona Supreme Court reversed the conviction for assault with a deadly weapon and reduced their sentences for murder to life in prison. In 1975, Ray Chapman escaped while working outside the prison, driving off in a prison vehicle. He was caught a day later. In 1987, Melvin Taylor was paroled. In 2014, Ray Chapman was released. Both men are free today. At the time of his death, Kenneth Meiner was a 17-year-old junior at South Mountain High School. He had been working at the Circle K for a year and a half, saving money to buy a pickup truck which he had just purchased a week or 2 before, with the money he saved for a down payment. Circle K manager Eugene Wheeler said, "Kenneth was a pleasant, unassuming boy. He was a good, dependable fellow who was always there when he was supposed to be there. The little kids liked him. The big kids liked him. Everyone I talked to liked him. He was described as clean living, hard-working, He worked full-time and went to school full-time, and he had a lot of friends. Others would say that he was responsible, and he always kept his word. A few weeks prior to Kenny's death, he had had a conversation with a family member, and he told them he wanted to get married eventually, and he wanted to have a son. Al Miner, Kenneth's father, he joined the Bill Williams Mountain Men 2 weeks prior to his death, and the day that Kenneth died, he rode with them in the Phoenix JC's rodeo parade. Now, the Bill Williams Mountain Men are a group of men that dress and reenact the lives of 1800s fur trappers. They dress like they did. They ride horses. They wear moccasins, outfits, buckskin. They also participate in parades and raise money for charity. The miners were having dinner with a few of the mountain men when they were notified of Kenneth's death. Upon hearing the news, his mother had to be hospitalized. Funeral services were held at Grimshaw's Bloom Chapel in Phoenix. Around 300 attended his funeral. The Bill Williams Mountain Men served as pallbearers. The Reverend Joseph N. Causey of Mountain Park Baptist Church said during the eulogy, "Kenny was a casualty in a war between goodness and evil, righteousness and darkness, just as sure as a soldier that dies in Vietnam is a casualty of that war." Kenneth Meiner was a member of the South Mountain High School ROTC program. He was a sergeant. Members of the ROTC conducted a military graveside service. They stood at attention as a rifle salute was fired, while taps played. Their brigade flag was held at half-staff at the high school. And Kenneth was buried in his uniform. He was survived by his parents, 2 sisters, and his grandparents, and sadly, 2 years later in 1972, his father, Al Miner, passed away. Kenneth's mother, Loretta Mae Hurley Miner, died at the age of 93 in 2022. This is the home where Kenny lived at the time of his death, at 17 years old. And the Circle K is no longer there, but the location still is. Kenneth Dale Miner is buried at the Rest Haven Car Tenney Mortuary and Memorial Park Cemetery in Phoenix, next to his parents.